Emily thought she was saved when Jack appeared out of nowhere to rescue her from a terrifying attack. But soon, she would discover that her supposed protector was hiding a dark and deadly secret that threatened her very life. Emily's life had always been ordinary, filled with the simple routines of a quiet suburban town. She worked as a graphic designer, enjoyed evening walks, and valued the calm safety of her neighborhood. But one chilly autumn evening, everything changed. The sun had set, and the streets were dimly lit by flickering street lamps as Emily made her way home from work. The crisp air felt refreshing, but there was an unsettling silence around her that she hadn't noticed before. As she walked down the familiar sidewalk, a sudden feeling of unease crept over her. She glanced behind but saw only shadows stretching long across the pavement. Her steps quickened, and so did the footsteps behind her. The sound wasn't casual or distant. It was deliberate, matching her pace. Fear gripped her chest, her breath catching as she tried to remain calm. She hoped it was just someone heading in the same direction, but deep down, she knew otherwise. Turning a corner, she hoped to lose whoever was following her, but the footsteps followed persistently, growing louder, closer. Panic surged through her veins, and she broke into a run, heart pounding wildly. Suddenly, a rough hand grabbed her arm, pulling her toward a narrow alleyway. She struggled fiercely, trying to break free, but the stranger's grip was like iron. Her cries for help were swallowed by the dark streets. In that moment, everything seemed lost. The attacker's intentions were clear and terrifying. Emily's mind raced, searching for any way out. Just as her strength began to fail, a figure appeared at the entrance of the alley. It was a man she hadn't seen before. Without hesitation, he stepped forward and pushed the attacker away with force. The attacker snarled but quickly retreated, disappearing into the night. The man who came to her rescue immediately offered his support, helping Emily steady herself. His voice was calm and his demeanor seemed kind. She was overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. For the first time since the attack began, she felt the safety of human kindness. She clung to that feeling as they walked out of the alley together. Emily didn't know his name at first. All she cared about was getting away from danger. He promised to walk her home and stay by her side until she was secure. The streets that once felt threatening now seemed a little less dark with his presence nearby. Though her hands trembled and tears welled in her eyes, Emily found comfort in the fact that someone had intervened when she needed it most. As they reached the safety of her front door, the man assured her he was there to help. She thanked him quietly, feeling a mix of exhaustion and disbelief. The night that began with terror was ending with hope, or so she thought. The man who saved her looked like a hero in that moment, a protector who had appeared just in time. What Emily didn't realize then was that this man, this rescuer, was not the simple helper he seemed. The fear she had just escaped wasn't over. It was about to take a darker, more twisted turn. The Night S events were only the beginning of a story far more complicated and dangerous than she could have imagined. But for now, all she knew was that she had survived, and someone had come to her aid when she needed it most. After that terrifying night, Emily's life felt fragile, like a thin thread barely holding her together. The man who had saved her introduced himself as Jack, a local handyman known for helping neighbors with repairs and odd jobs. At first, Emily was hesitant to accept help from anyone, but Jack seemed different, calm, reassuring, and attentive in a way that made her feel less alone. He insisted she stay at his small apartment nearby, saying it was safer than being alone at home so soon after the attack. Reluctantly, Emily agreed. The apartment was modest but neat, with tools hanging on the walls and soft light filling the small living room. Jack moved quietly, offering to fix the loose doorknob she'd mentioned earlier and making her a cup of tea. His presence was steady, and for the first time in days, Emily felt a flicker of safety. She allowed herself to rest, though a shadow of unease lingered at the edges of her mind. Days turned into a week, and Jack's visits became routine. He fixed things around her apartment, checked in often, and helped Emily report the attack to the police. To anyone watching, it seemed like a natural bond between two people brought together by a frightening event. But beneath the surface, Emily noticed small things that unsettled her. Jack often asked questions about her past, where she worked before, if she had any family nearby, and who she trusted. His interest felt more like scrutiny, as if he was trying to piece together her life carefully. Sometimes his stories about himself didn't quite add up. He claimed to work odd jobs, but there were gaps in his explanations. At night, Emily heard him on the phone, speaking in low, urgent tones, ending conversations abruptly whenever she entered the room. Despite these oddities, Emily clung to the idea that Jack was her protector. She told herself that after all she'd been through, she needed someone to rely on. Her friends expressed concern, but she brushed off their warnings, convinced that Jack's help was genuine. The kindness he showed was a lifeline in her storm of fear and confusion. One afternoon, while searching for her lost necklace, Emily glanced into a cluttered corner of Jack's apartment she hadn't paid much attention to before. Among the scattered papers and tools, she noticed a small, worn notebook tucked beneath a pile of magazines. Curiosity overcame her hesitation, and she picked it up. The cover was plain, but inside were pages filled with names, dates, and locations. At first, it seemed like a personal diary, but as Emily read further, the notes became chilling. The notebook contained detailed observations about women she didn't recognize, some from her town, some from neighboring areas. The entries recorded their routines, habits, and even private moments. A sick feeling settled in her stomach as she realized the notebook was tracking victims, some of whom had disappeared without explanation. Emily's heart raced. The man who had saved her was keeping a list, a record of potential prey. The safety she'd felt in his presence shattered instantly. She understood then that Jack was not the protector she thought he was, but someone dangerous hiding behind a mask of kindness. The fear from that first attack came rushing back, multiplied by betrayal and shock. The rescue that had seemed like a miracle now felt like a trap. Emily was caught between gratitude and terror, unsure of how to escape the man who had become her captor in disguise. She knew she had to act, but the question was how and when. The nightmare was far from over, and Emily was running out of time. Emily's mind was consumed by fear and confusion after discovering the notebook. Every glance at Jack now held a new, sinister meaning. She began to notice things she had missed before, how he would watch her closely when she moved around the apartment, how he kept his phone close at all times, and how his smile sometimes didn't reach his eyes. The mask of kindness he wore was slipping, revealing something much darker underneath. Her daily life became a careful dance of hiding her growing distrust. She avoided being alone with Jack as much as possible, pretending to be busy or tired. But Jack's presence was overwhelming. He seemed to know her every move and often appeared unannounced. The small apartment felt like a cage. Emily's attempts to reach out to friends and family were met with subtle discouragement from Jack, who insisted that the outside world was dangerous and that he was protecting her. Emily's suspicions grew when she overheard fragments of Jack's phone conversations late at night. He spoke in hushed tones about keeping an eye on targets and mentioned names she recognized from local news reports about missing women. The thought that Jack might be connected to these disappearances chilled her to the bone. She realized she wasn't just a victim of one attacker, but potentially the next in a series of victims he had carefully studied and hunted. Paralyzed by fear, but fueled by survival instinct, Emily began to collect evidence quietly. She memorized the details in the notebook and took mental notes of Jack's routines. She found a small chance when Jack left his phone unattended and quickly snapped pictures of the incriminating messages and photos he kept hidden. Each secret discovery only deepened the horrifying truth. Jack was a predator who used his image as a rescuer to lure vulnerable women into his grasp. Despite her terror, Emily refused to give in. She understood that confronting Jack directly would be too dangerous. Instead, she carefully planned how to get help without alerting him. Every interaction was weighed, every move calculated. She started leaving subtle clues for her trusted friends, hinting that something was wrong without revealing too much. One afternoon, Emily managed to slip out while Jack was distracted with a phone call. She headed to a local cafe where she knew a friend worked. Speaking in hushed tones, she revealed enough of her story to alarm her friend, who immediately contacted the police. They arranged a meeting to discuss Emily's evidence in a safe place. Back at the apartment, Jack's behavior grew more erratic. He seemed restless, as if sensing that Emily was slipping away. His charm turned to cold suspicion, and Emily knew time was running out. The very man who had once seemed like her protector had become her greatest threat. The danger was no longer hidden in the shadows. It was right beside her, watching her every move. The police took Emily's information seriously. They began to investigate Jack, digging into his past and connections. Evidence started to surface, linking him to a string of unsolved cases involving missing women. What had begun as a terrifying night had now unraveled a dangerous predator hiding in plain sight. Emily's courage and careful actions had turned the tide, but the road ahead was still uncertain. The man who had saved her had almost destroyed her, and the scars of betrayal ran deep. As the investigation moved forward, Emily braced herself for what was to come, determined to see justice done and to reclaim her life from the nightmare she had survived. The police took Emily's evidence seriously, but the investigation into Jack's activities proved more complex than anyone expected. Officers carefully examined the notebook, phone records, and photographs Emily had gathered, uncovering disturbing patterns that linked Jack to a series of disappearances stretching back several years. Each case involved women who had trusted someone close to them, only to vanish without a trace. Jack's calm, helpful demeanor was a perfect disguise for his predatory behavior. As detectives delved deeper, they uncovered a hidden world behind Jack's friendly exterior. Surveillance footage from local stores showed Jack watching women for days or even weeks, noting their habits and routines. Interviews with neighbors painted a picture of a man who blended into the community while secretly stalking his victims. Even more chilling, authorities discovered a collection of personal items belonging to missing women hidden in his apartment, jewelry, clothing, and photographs that confirmed his connection to the crimes. Emily's testimony became the key to unraveling the truth. Her detailed recollection of Jack's behavior and the evidence she provided helped investigators build a strong case. Yet the psychological toll on Emily was immense. The realization that the man she had trusted and depended on was responsible for so much pain was devastating. She struggled to process the betrayal, feeling both relief at his capture and anguish for those who had suffered before her. Despite the growing evidence, Jack maintained his innocence, portraying himself as a victim of misunderstanding and false accusations. He denied any involvement with the missing women, using charm and manipulation in court appearances and interviews. His attempts to confuse the case only heightened public interest and fear. The community was shaken, realizing that danger had lurked so close to home under the guise of a helper. Emily, meanwhile, found strength in sharing her story publicly. She spoke out in interviews and support groups, warning others about the dangers of misplaced trust and the importance of paying attention to warning signs. Her courage inspired many survivors to come forward, creating a network of support and awareness that reached far beyond her town. The trial was long and intense, revealing Jack's twisted methods and cold calculation. Prosecutors presented the chilling details of his stalking, manipulation, and control. Witnesses testified about his behavior, and forensic evidence linked him directly to the missing women's disappearances. The courtroom was filled with tension as the truth unfolded piece by piece. Finally, the jury delivered their verdict: guilty on multiple counts of kidnapping, stalking, and assault. Jack was sentenced to life in prison, his freedom stripped away, but the damage he caused lingering in the lives of his victims and the community. The case became a cautionary tale about the dangers hidden behind friendly faces and the power of vigilance. For Emily, the conviction was not an end but a beginning. She continued her journey of healing, determined to reclaim her life from the shadow of trauma. With each step forward, she honored the courage it took to face the truth and the strength it took to survive. The nightmare she endured had left scars, but it also revealed a resilience that no predator could destroy. Her story became a beacon, reminding everyone that sometimes the greatest danger comes not from strangers, but from those who pretend to protect. In the aftermath of Betrayal, Emily found a new purpose: to shine light on the darkness and help others find their way to safety. The days and months following Jack's conviction were a mix of relief and ongoing struggle for Emily. Though the man who had caused her so much pain was behind bars, the emotional scars he left were deep and complicated. Healing was not a straight path. Some days felt lighter, filled with hope, while others were heavy with memories and doubts. But Emily was determined to move forward, refusing to let fear control her life. She found strength in the support of friends, family, and survivors who had experienced similar betrayals. Together, they formed a community bound by shared pain and the desire for justice. Emily began speaking openly about her experience at support groups and public forums, hoping her story could help others recognize the signs of hidden danger and find the courage to seek help. Her voice became a powerful tool, turning trauma into advocacy. Emily also focused on rebuilding her sense of safety and trust. Simple routines that once felt threatening, walking alone at night, answering the door, or even trusting a stranger's kindness, were now approached with caution, but not paralyzed by fear. She took self-defense classes, learned to trust her instincts, and developed strategies to protect herself without living in constant anxiety. Each step was a victory in reclaiming her independence. Despite the pain of betrayal, Emily refused to let it define her. She pursued her passions with renewed energy, returning to work and reconnecting with hobbies she had set aside. Creating art became a form of therapy, allowing her to express feelings that words couldn't capture. Her resilience inspired others, showing that survival was possible even after the darkest experiences. Emily's journey also highlighted the importance of awareness and prevention. She worked with local organizations to educate communities about the dangers of predators who hide behind friendly facades. Through workshops and campaigns, she emphasized that trust should be earned, and everyone has the right to feel safe. Her advocacy brought attention to a hidden problem many overlooked: the idea that rescuers and helpers can sometimes be the most dangerous threats. The legacy of Jack's crimes lingered, a reminder of the fragile line between safety and danger. But Emily's courage and determination transformed that legacy into something hopeful. She showed that even when trust is broken, it can be rebuilt with care, support, and vigilance. Her story became a beacon for others, a testament to human strength and the power to overcome betrayal. In time, Emily found peace not by forgetting what happened, but by embracing her survival. She carried her scars like badges of strength, symbols of a journey through darkness into light. The nightmare that had once threatened to consume her became a catalyst for change, both in her life and in the lives of those she reached through her story. Though the past could never be erased, Emily's future was hers to shape. She looked ahead with hope, knowing that survival was not just about escaping danger, but about reclaiming one's life, identity, and power. The victim who had once feared her rescuer now stood strong, a survivor who had turned betrayal into a message of warning, healing, and resilience.